All right, strap in for this deep dive because we're going right into a hot zone.
Oh, yeah, definitely hot zone.
Imagine, right?
Yeah.
You're a UN peacekeeper stationed in Lebanon. You're at a UN base. Everything's marked. You're neutral.
Right.
You're supposed to be safe.
Yeah.
Suddenly, Israeli tanks are smashing through the gates.
Oh, wow.
This isn't a what if. This is actually happening.
Yeah.
UN troops are facing this right now
Mm.
as this whole Israel-Hezbollah conflict just boils over.
It's really a stark illustration of just how volatile that whole region is.
Yeah.
UNIFIL, the UN interim force in Lebanon,
Right.
they've been trying to keep the peace there since 1978 along the border.
Oh, wow.
Talk about a tough job, especially with all the history there.
Yeah.
But this latest flare-up between Israel and Hezbollah, it's put UNIFIL directly in the line of fire.
Yeah. And we're not talking about, like, stray bullets here.
No.
We're talking targeted attacks.
Yeah.
We actually got our hands on a leaked report. It's got photos and everything documenting over a dozen incidents
Wow.
where Israeli forces directly targeted UN positions.
Yeah.
Like, we're talking demolished watchtowers.
Oh, gosh.
Bunkers just getting pounded by tank fire.
Oh, man.
It's a pretty shocking picture.
It is. And what's striking is that UNIFIL isn't just taking this.
Right.
They're publicly calling these attacks flagrant violations of international law.
Yeah, that's some pretty strong language.
It is. Yeah, you don't see that every day in diplomatic circles.
So Israel's pushing back, though, right?
Oh, absolutely.
They're claiming Hezbollah is using UN troops as human shields.
Exactly. Their argument is that Hezbollah fighters are intentionally operating near UNIFIL posts.
Yeah.
It's almost like they're daring Israel to attack and risk hitting the peacekeepers. It's a tactic that puts UNIFIL in a really impossible situation.
Yeah, for sure. So let's unpack this a little bit.
Right.
How much weight does Israel's justification actually hold?
Right.
Is Hezbollah really playing this dangerous game? And ultimately, what does all this mean for the UN peacekeepers who are stuck in the middle of all of this?
I think to really understand this, we need to look closely at the specifics of these incidents.
Okay.
It's not just about where the attacks happened, but also, like,
Yeah.
Hezbollah fighters, were they there? Were they doing anything? Were they actively engaging Israeli forces from near these UN posts, or were they just kind of in the general area?
Right. Were they just nearby?
Yeah, exactly. And that's where this leaked report gets really interesting.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it gives this really granular view of what happened.
Okay.
And some of the details, I gotta say, they're pretty chilling.
Yeah, well, lay it on us.
Okay, so for example, take the incident on October 10th.
Okay.
An Israeli Merkava tank.
Right.
Man, we're talking about some serious firepower here.
Oh, yeah. Those things are beasts.
Directly hit a UN observation tower at their HQ in Nakora.
Wow.
2 peacekeepers were injured.
Jeez.
The report even includes a photo of this gaping hole in the tower. It's kind of hard to believe that was an accident, you know?
Yeah. Especially when you think about it.
Yeah.
The report also mentions that the IDF...
Right. The Israeli Defense Forces.
Yeah, they actually told UNIFIL to take cover
Hmm.
during operational activity nearby.
Interesting.
Now they were claiming the damage to the tower was accidental.
Yeah, right.
And that it's under review.
Mhm.
But that photo, though,
Yeah, that photo tells a different story.
it really does.
That's the real question here, isn't it?
Yeah.
Was this truly a mistake in the heat of battle? Or was it something more deliberate
Right.
to figure that out? I think we need to look at the specific circumstances,
Yeah.
like the trajectory of the tank fire.
Right.
What were the rules of engagement that the IDF was operating under?
Yeah.
I mean, there are a lot of factors to consider.
Yeah, definitely. And look, this wasn't an isolated incident.
Right.
The report describes another event on that same day.
Oh, wow.
The IDF fired on a UN bunker
Oh, geez.
where Italian peacekeepers had taken refuge.
No.
And they even point out that the IDF had used drones to surveil the position before and had actually destroyed its cameras the day before.
That's interesting.
Yeah, that little detail about the cameras really raises a red flag for me.
Yeah, I can see why.
It suggests they knew UN peacekeepers were there.
Right?
So why fire on the bunker?
It's a big question.
It's a question that needs to be answered.
Absolutely.
And then there's the whole White Phosphorus thing
Right.
that adds a whole other level of messed up to this whole situation.
It does. Yeah, it's really disturbing.
Yeah.
So on October 13th, the report says 2 Israeli Merkava tanks just drove right through the main gate of a UN base.
Wait, hold on.
Yeah.
They have pictures of tanks just rolling through UN base gate,
Oh, yeah.
like casually.
The report has pictures of everything.
What?
The tanks entering, the damage to the perimeter walls, even the white smoke just hanging in the air.
Wow.
Israel says it was an accident.
Oh, come on.
They said a tank accidentally backed into the base while they were trying to evacuate some injured soldiers under fire.
Right.
And the smoke, they're saying it was just a protective smoke screen.
But I'm guessing the report isn't really buying that.
No, not really.
What did it say?
A UNIFIL source is quoted in the report.
Okay.
And they point out that Merkava tanks, they're built to withstand way more damage than a UN position.
Right.
So the idea that they needed to shelter there, it just doesn't really add up.
Okay, so let's just back up for a second.
Sure.
For people who maybe aren't as familiar with all this,
Yeah.
what exactly is white phosphorus?
So white phosphorus, it's this chemical substance that burns really hot
Okay.
and produces this thick white smoke.
Mm-hmm.
Militaries use it for a few things.
Okay.
Creating smoke screens, obviously.
Right.
Illuminating battlefields at night.
Okay.
And, well, unfortunately, as an incendiary weapon.
Okay, so incendiary meaning it sets stuff on fire.
Exactly, and that's where things get controversial. When white phosphorus comes into contact with skin, it can burn right through to the bone.
Oh, wow.
And even the smoke itself can cause really serious respiratory damage, even if it's not used directly as a weapon.
So even if they were just using it as a smoke screen.
Right.
If that smoke drifts into a populated area, or in this case, a UN base,
exactly,
that could have some really bad consequences.
Absolutely, yeah. And that's why the use of white phosphorus is actually really carefully regulated under international law.
Oh, okay.
It's not outright banned.
Right.
But using it in a way that directly targets civilians or causes like disproportionate harm, that's considered a war crime.
So given that, and the fact that those peacekeepers were injured, this whole incident with the white phosphorus sounds really bad.
It is, yeah. This definitely needs to be investigated thoroughly.
Yeah.
I mean, was the use of white phosphorus intentional?
Right.
Was it just reckless, or was it really just a tragic consequence of the fighting that was going on nearby? I think that's really the key to figuring out if international law was actually violated here.
So let's say you're a country.
Yeah.
You've got troops in UNIFIL. You get this report.
Yeah.
What do you do?
Right.
Do you pull your troops out?
Yeah.
Risk further instability? Or do you just stay put and risk more attacks?
It's a really tough call.
It is, yeah.
I mean, on one hand, these attacks on UNIFIL, they represent a breakdown of those international norms.
Yeah.
And it puts the peacekeepers at just unacceptable risk. But then on the other hand, withdrawing, that could create a vacuum.
Yeah.
And it could escalate the conflict even further between Israel and Hezbollah. I don't think there's an easy answer here.
Yeah, and it's this whole thing with peacekeeping.
Yeah.
Right? The whole idea of it takes a real hit.
It does, especially in such a volatile region like this.
Yeah, and it raises some really tough questions about the future of these missions.
It does, yeah.
Peacekeepers are there to keep the peace, and they're being targeted. What does that say about the whole idea of peacekeeping?
Right. Is it even viable?
Yeah.
When you have one or more sides just blatantly disregarding international law?
Looking at these images,
Yeah.
especially that one with the destroyed observation tower, that lingering white smoke.
It is.
It's just haunting.
It's a stark reminder.
It is.
Of the human cost of this conflict. Not just for the civilians caught in the crossfire, but for the peacekeepers themselves.
Yeah.
Who are just trying to protect them.
It makes you wonder, what will it really take to bring lasting peace to this region? And what can we do to protect the people who are risking their lives trying to achieve that?
I mean, these are questions that have haunted this region for decades.
Yeah.
And they become even more urgent,
Yeah.
given these recent incidents.
It feels like the status quo just isn't working.
No, it's not.
We can't keep sending peacekeepers into these dangerous situations.
Right.
Without some better way of protecting them.
Yeah.
And making sure their mission can actually succeed.
You're absolutely right.
Yeah, it really drives it home, doesn't it?
It does.
These incidents and the photos and the report,
Yeah.
it's a stark reminder of how much is at stake here.
Absolutely.
It makes you wonder what it'll really take to bring lasting peace to that region.
Right.
And how can we do a better job of protecting the peacekeepers?
Yeah.
The ones who are putting their lives on the line to try to make that happen.
These are questions that have plagued this region for decades.
Yeah.
And these recent events just make them even more urgent.
It does feel like the status quo isn't working.
No, it's not.
So where do we go from here?
Right.
What are some potential solutions?
Well, it's a complicated problem, right?
Yeah.
It's a multifaceted approach.
Okay.
First off, there needs to be a clear condemnation of these attacks on UNIFIL by
Right.
the whole international community.
Yeah.
Words are important, but they have to be backed up by action.
Holding those responsible accountable is crucial,
Yeah.
even if it's politically difficult.
I mean, easier said than done, right?
Of course, it's not simple.
Especially dealing with a country like Israel.
Yeah, you're right. It's not simple.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean we just give up on accountability.
Right.
Diplomatic pressure, sanctions,
Yeah.
even legal action through international courts.
Okay.
All of these options need to be on the table.
Right.
The message needs to be crystal clear.
Yeah.
Attacks on peacekeepers will not be tolerated.
They will have consequences.
Exactly.
What about UNIFIL themselves, though?
Yeah.
Is there anything they can do
Right.
to better protect their own troops in this kind of environment?
Well, they need to be given the resources and the mandate to operate effectively.
Okay, what does that look like?
It means making sure they have the right equipment, good intelligence, and the ability to actually defend themselves if they need to.
Right, if it comes down to it.
Exactly.
But that almost sounds like it's moving away from peacekeeping, right?
Well, it's a tough balance.
Yeah.
But the safety of those peacekeepers has to be the top priority. If they're constantly under threat and they can't actually do their job, then the whole point of a peacekeeping mission is kind of pointless, right?
Right, right.
We need to find a way to empower UNIFIL to protect themselves,
Yeah.
but without making them look like they're taking sides,
Right.
without compromising that neutrality.
Man, this has been a real eye-opener.
It has.
You know, seeing those images in that report,
Yeah,
it really brings home the human cost of war
absolutely.
and the incredible risks that these peacekeepers face every single day.
They do, and it highlights the urgent need
Yeah.
for a renewed commitment to
Mhm.
protecting those who are working to build peace
Right.
in some of the most dangerous places in the world.
It's a reminder that peace is fragile.
It is.
It takes constant vigilance
Absolutely.
and the willingness to stand up for what's right. Yes, even when it's hard.
Even when it's really, really difficult.
Yeah,
This has been a heavy conversation,
it has.
but really important, I think.
I agree.
Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.
Thanks for having me.
It's a complicated situation,
It is.
but hopefully this gives everyone listening a little bit more insight
I hope so.
into what's happening over there
Yeah.
and the risks that these peacekeepers are facing.
Yeah, it's important to understand these things.
It is. And we'll keep following this story
Absolutely.
and keep you updated as things develop.
Sounds good.
Thanks again for listening.